You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network. Welcome. This is episode 11 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I gotta tell you, when we started this, I had absolutely no idea that we would ever get to episode 11. But 3 months later, here we are. And, you know, my faith in this is, of course, always increased by my wonderful co-host. I'm here with Jessica Salaji, who she's had a fantastic week. She's wooing. Everything's great. And I'm also here with Matt Lowe.
Well,
it's been quite a week around here. This week on the show, we'll have Doug Craig with us. Doug Craig is a longtime libertarian. He's run for office. He has been very high up in the party for quite a while, sat on the executive committee, and he's going to be discussing ballot access and the specific issues that lack of ballot access brings to elections, not just if you're a libertarian, but all party stripes. So it's going to be a fantastic interview. That's going to be coming up later in the show. You know, but we have a lot going on this week, a whole lot going on. Here in Douglas County, Governor Deal has announced recently that in the mix of a really well-run campaign for district attorney between two great candidates, Democrat Delia Racine and Republican Ryan Leonard, Governor Deal has announced that he's just going to appoint a district attorney for Douglas County. We've written a couple of different articles about it. There's more articles to come on it. We have spoken with both of the candidates. Both of the candidates have given exclusive statements to All on Georgia, and you can find those at allongeorgia.com. But, you know, what do you guys think about that? Just, you know, in the middle of a race for district attorney, all of a sudden, you know, up pops Governor Deal. I'm going to appoint somebody.
Well, I think you're forgetting one of the most important parts of it is that the legislature passed a bill to allow the governor to do this just last month. It was one of the first bills to pass through this session. And so this was something that was, you know, in the works the entire time these people were campaigning across the county while the legislature was in session. So,
right. And it's just... you know, I mean, and both of these candidates are out of money. And, you know, honestly, we don't know. You know, I would certainly hope that one of the two that actually, you know, had the courage and the guts to go campaign will be named. But, you know, I mean, we don't know what Deal's going to do. I mean, it may be somebody that just comes out of left field.
You know, I'm kind of in agreement with that sentiment. That it should be someone who initially threw their hat in the ring for it.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, this is, you know, and I have some lawyers on the All on Georgia Douglas comment section that are commenting that, you know, lawyers know these people a lot better than the voters do, and blah blah blah. But I mean, this is an elected office. You know, yes, it's an office of a judicial nature, but it's an elected office. And your opinions and your behavior on an array of issues matter to the voters in that elected office.
So the argument is lawyers know them better.
Yes, because these are their colleagues.
Well, I mean, you know, like if you go ask the average person, you know, like their thoughts on a lawyer, you know, they place them near the bottom rung of, you know,
society.
Yeah. You know, so it's like, you know, your mother-in-law and a lawyer.
But, you know, and that the legislation that Jessica referenced, you know, that became a large point as I was putting together some stories because of, you know, and it was a very strange piece of legislation. It was just, you know, a lot of the legislation that we cover, we complain about it because it's just too vague and too broad. things like distracted driving and things like this. This piece of legislation is just ultra specific.
Right.
Discussing absolutely nothing more. This is not even about, generalities of, the governor appointing people to offices. This is very specifically legislation that speaks to the governor appointing district attorneys. And, I haven't had time to dig into it, but I would love to really delve into the backstory of how this came to be. It's just odd legislation. Don't you think so?
I do. When I was giving my red, yellow, greens for the policy analysis this year, I gave this one a big old red no. But of course it passed everyone. But that's a whole other issue about giving the governor's office way too much authority. I mean, all these Republicans and even the Democrats say, oh, well, it's no big deal. Like, Governor Deal will use it appropriately. He's been for criminal justice reform. He's been for this. He's been for that. But we're about to get a new governor, and we don't know who that's going to be. And in 4 to 8 years, our state could be blue, and all of a sudden the governor's office has every authority to do whatever they want, and all thanks because the legislature gave it to them.
Absolutely. That's the thing is everybody wants to give power to the executive branch when the executive branch is their party, but then wants to complain when they're not.
Right.
And that's something that goes from state politics, local politics, all the way up to national politics. Stop giving the executive branch so much power.
That's actually an argument that I use when I'm discussing national reciprocity as far as concealed carry permits are concerned.
Oh, absolutely. I am 100% in agreement there. I would not want, number one, Trump hasn't exactly, set the world on fire with his gun policy. I came, I wasn't excited when he was elected, but I did hope that at least maybe we could get the Hearing Protection Act passed. And yeah, there is no Hearing Protection Act. There is no national reciprocity. There's nothing. There's comments that possibly we should raise the age to purchase a rifle to 21. So yeah, so that's where we're at, and looks like we have some entertaining. Wait. Okay.
I just want to mention my mug this evening.
I saw the mug.
Hold on. Let me pull the webcam back up. I have missed the mug.
It says, abs are great, but have you tried donuts?
And that looks like some of your illegal tea. Your felonious tea.
Yes, and it even has a spiritual message on it that says, the difference between a flower and a weed is judgment. So take that with you. I should have saved that for the closing thoughts. But
that's funny. That's pretty accurate because my little girl runs out into the yard and picks dandelions, comes back in and tells me she brought me flowers.
I also consider weed to be a good flower.
Oh my gosh.
Nail meat head.
This is how I spit whiskey all over my computer. That's what I'm having today. You couldn't tell that.
So it's a whiskey kind of day, huh?
It is a whiskey kind of day.
I hear you. It's been quite busy. I set a new record this past week. I ran 3 meetings simultaneously on video.
Miles.
Yes. I had 3 meetings running on 2 of my markets at the same time.
That's remarkable.
Yes, I had a meeting, a Board of Commissioners regular monthly meeting in Douglas County. I had a chat and chew, which is kind of an informal town hall that's hosted here by the Blue Rose Art Bistro. So if you're ever around Douglasville, check out the Blue Rose Art Bistro. They sell a lot of art. They have wine tastings and things like that. So just want to give them a quick shout out for hosting that. And they host a lot of political events in Douglas County. But Matthew Kroll, the solicitor, was there. So I was filming that town hall. And out in Temple was the largest town hall meeting I have ever seen. They had everyone from Senator Mike Dugan, House Rep Jay Collins, all the way down to local city councilmen. They had representatives from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office out there. They had just everyone that you can think of. People from the Water Authority. It was truly a very well put together town hall. Basically, if you live in Temple, everyone that represents you in government was at that meeting, or they had a representative there. Other than congressmen, there were no congressmen there, but on the state level, all the way down to the very local level, everyone was there, and it was a great meeting. But so. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a new record for me. I was on the phone with all kinds of people trying to make it happen. No, I have a very well put together set of minions that handle things very well.
Minions.
Yeah.
My kids love those guys.
Yeah. And Matt, you had a big DOT meeting as well, didn't you?
Well, it was an open house, so it was fairly informal, but it was kind of neat. They're widening one of the major arteries that runs through the county, Highway 61, and I thought there would be a lot of opposition to it.
Yeah, that's a for those of you that aren't familiar, that is most of that highway is residential housing. There are some. It's essentially what it is. It is the highway that runs from downtown Villa Rica into right kind of in between downtown Dallas and Hiram. Well, yeah, and then it goes on from there. If you continue on, it goes up into Cartersville. But yeah, it's when you run that stretch of highway, it is mostly just a lot of houses, just a lot of homes. And I'm with you. I'm surprised that there were not a lot of homeowners that were out there concerned about losing their front yard to the highway.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about it is there were only 4 holdouts on the project, and they all reached a resolution, and the county never had to exercise eminent domain.
Well, that is good. I hate to.
Yeah, I do too. There was one point where they were talking about it was a totally different subject, but talking about eminent domain in the county. Paulding is building a reservoir up in the northern end of the county, and in order to get some water or sewer lines in an area, the Paulding County needed like 10 square feet of land from a homeowner who technically resided in Bartow. And they thought, like, no one wanted to use eminent domain, because Bartow didn't want to do it to their guy. Paulding didn't want to do it because there's no way they wanted the bad press of utilizing eminent domain on a citizen that they weren't accountable to. It was a really funny story, but ultimately they wound up they bought it at fair market value and everything was fine. But yeah, no, that whole I don't know, 4.5 miles or whatever of widening. They're going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and I believe they're maintaining the 55 mile an hour speed limit for most of it. And they didn't have to use eminent domain, and there's not a lot of people that are irritated about it.
So have either of you two ever made a video that you posted on the internet and later regretted?
That's a loaded question.
Right?
Look! Don't worry. We're not gonna. Actually, we've already looked and we noticed that video was no longer there. So
Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah we checked that out tonight, and that fantastic performance of the Spice Girls is no longer available for public consumption. So I'm not
Google
gonna.
deleted it.
Hmm?
Nothing.
Well, it is gone, and I'm sad.
Well,
Very sad.
so are we talking about this video? What are we talking about? What was the segue
Well,
there?
see what that was in the broadcasting industry. We refer to that as a seg into this Air Force story that no one is taking the baton from me and running. And I didn't post this story, so I don't know from where it came. Perhaps we should start naming these things on the sheet. Put a little
Sure,
J beside it, or a little.
I did put a J beside something at the end, but this outline was put together in the car. So anyway,
Right. And that's my fault too, man. I should have been on this, but I had a.
Well, now in light of the newly passed distracted driving law,
I shouted the whole
were
thing.
you traveling up I-16 as you?
No, I was out on the back roads of South
Were you-
Georgia yelling all of this into my phone, shouting.
Yelling. Okay, so you were not technically breaking the distracted driving law because you were using the text to talk function. Although, were you holding the phone while doing so?
No, I put it on the floor to see if I could yell loud enough if they would hear it.
My God, I would pay good money to watch this show. Okay, anyway, proceed.
Back to the videos. Well, actually, this one I'm not really sure. This wasn't something that was uploaded by somebody. This was an actual National Guard enlistment ceremony where a senior officer recited her oath using a dinosaur puppet. And we'll post the article on our Facebook page so you can see it. But there's a photo of her with looks to be like a T-Rex on her right hand, and she's holding it up, and that's how she's reciting her oath. And after there was so much blowback that she was demoted and retired immediately. I didn't know this was a thing in so many ways. I'm not really following the dinosaur on the fist thing for a military.
This is a wild ass guess here, okay? But I know that a lot of folks in the military, they kind of like to poke fun at some of the religious diversity rules that are in it. I know, when I was in basic, I listed my religion as Wiccan, and I did this because Wiccans hold service on Saturday, and then everybody else holds service on Sunday, so the base pretty much shuts down. And what that got me was a full weekend off.
I bet you that if you would have had some kind of untimely death, that whatever the military would do for a Wiccan funeral.
Nope, because there's a separate line item for that where it said what kind of burial do you want, and I checked Christian.
That is quite odd.
Well, what about the checks and balances along the way that totally failed the entire thing? No one thought, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe this won't look good. No one?
Well, that's the thing, though, is if she's on there and she's claiming that it was something to do with her religion, that, they're absolutely not going to stop it. It's very strange, the way the military works when it comes to religious stuff. Like, they will outright tell you, you can't say this, you've lost your freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. But they ain't going to tell you anything about whatever God you choose to worship.
Well, I've also thought it was interesting that they reprimanded the guy who took the video, too.
Well, I mean, you always have to shoot the messenger in situations.
They're not going after the girl.
Yeah. Look, because here's the thing. Here's how chain of command works, okay? And while I'm not a military veteran, I spent a good amount of time in law enforcement. So while there's a lot of things about the military I don't understand, chain of command I do understand. And what I can tell you about chain of command is there's somebody within that chain of command whose prime reason for being pissed off about this is not because it happened. Their concern is they want to know who the idiot was that let this get out, and they want to go after that guy.
Right.
Well, going back to Matt's point, though, the article actually says, as I went further down, it said that it happened because she wanted her children to be able to watch it later because they were not in attendance. So it does not appear to be a religious ceremony.
A religious thing.
What?
Not a religious thing.
No. So, rule or lesson of the day is to avoid T-Rex swearing-in ceremonies. Don't film them. Don't partake. Don't administer.
Right.
Leave that alone. All right.
So I'm not sure that the next story is a good one, but Matt did have a chance to listen to the audio that we were talking about earlier. If you want to go into that instead, I think that's really more relevant.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw the plane crash last week with the up in Philadelphia. It was just it was all over cable news. Really dramatic crash. Well, they've released the audio from the air traffic control audio that from that plane crash, and that the captain or the pilot rather of that plane was just
badass. That's the only way to describe it.
She is just cold as ice. So we're gonna play you some of that audio.
Yeah, we have a part of the aircraft missing, so we're going to need to slow down a bit.
Southwest 1380, speed is your discretion. Maintain at any altitude above 3,000 feet, and you let me know when you want to turn base.
All right, down to 3,000, 210 on the speed.
Absolutely. You just let me know anything you need.
Okay, could you have the medical meet us there on the runway as well? We've got injured passengers.
Injured passengers, okay. And is your airplane physically on fire?
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing. They said there was a hole and someone went out.
I'm sorry, you said there was a hole and somebody went out? Southwest 1380, it doesn't matter. We'll work it out there. So the airport's just off to your right. Report it in sight, please.
In sight. Southwest 1380, airport's in sight.
Southwest 1380, you're cleared. Visual approach 27 right. Contact the tower on 118.5. Southwest 1380, I'm sorry, cleared. Visual approach 27 left. 27 left and tower's on 18.5.
We're going on 27 left. Switch the tower. Good day.
Southwest 1380, right turn when you're able. You want to stop wherever you need to is fine.
Thank you. We're going to stop right here by the fire truck. Thanks, guys, for the help.
So, there you go. I mean, it's just that audio just speaks for itself. That's absolutely incredible. As you see, you want to talk about staying cool under pressure. Well, thank you very much. We're gonna park right here beside this fire truck.
Right? Like, I don't mean to, I'll laugh a little bit, and I don't mean to. It sounds kind of insensitive because I know people died. But, I mean, Yes, I don't. There's no way that I could have delivered the message. No, it's not on fire, but part of it is missing. In anything that sounded sane or rational, or without like a lot of swearing. You know,
We're gonna need to slow it down a little bit. Part of the plane's missing.
right? Just wow. She was
In other news, could somebody get me a cup of coffee when we get on the ground?
right.
Well, and she's trying to land this plane, and they were talking about how quickly they descended. But she's trying to land the plane, and she's having a conversation about exactly what everyone needs to do as soon as they land. Like, we need to get the paramedics here. We have someone on board who's in trouble. Like, one thing after the next while she's doing this. And you would think that she would be handling all of this and someone else would be relaying these messages, trying to help her so she could focus. But she had it all under control, and
Yeah.
there was no need for anybody else.
Yeah.
Also, there's a hole in it, and someone went out. She said that, and the little air traffic control guy.
There's
was
just
like
dead
this.
silence. What?
Yeah. It's just wow.
And I do love the way that he recovered from that too. With the we'll take care of that. We'll
worry about that later.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, this woman.
We'll get all that
she
sorted
needs to go
out.
be a neurosurgeon or something. Yeah.
But
That's the kind of cool, calm, and collected I want digging around in my brain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at her history. One of the first women to fly F-18s. So, I mean, like you said, just truly a remarkable badass.
Why, am I not shocked that Jessica's got a sparkly ass phone
I'm just surprised it's not pink.
or white?
Yeah, white. It's kind of a
My house,
teal.
the walls in my house, except my office and the guest room, are gray. So this is silver. And sometimes when the sun hits it, it looks like a disco ball wherever I am.
You know what my walls are? My walls are paint and Sharpie.
They're what?
Paint, white paint, and Sharpie.
How's your kitchen floor
My kitchen floor is fine.
after it was pine sol?
Yeah, clean as hell.
That was freaking hilarious that he put pine sol in the dishwasher.
It's freaking. I didn't think that a quarter cup of pine sol would suds up that much either. I mean, every one of my kids at some point has put Dawn or something like that in there. So I expect that, and normally the way you clean it out is you just spray white vinegar in there. It hits the suds, it desuds it, and then I take a shot back and I suck everything out. Go ahead and finish the cycle and call it a day, right? I don't know what the hell is in this stuff, right? But we sucked 3, and it's a 15-gallon shot bag that I've got, and we filled it up 3 different times, dumping it out, spraying water in there, vinegar, everything. It's just, oh my God, I don't know what they did to pine sol to make it so damn sudsy, but.
So we have Doug Craig here with us. Doug Craig was a long-time head. He held a lot of different roles, but I think that everybody that's involved with the Libertarian Party or libertarianism in Georgia, kind of knows Doug Craig as the longtime head of the Libertarian Party. So, but Doug, you're not actually You're not actually on the executive committee anymore, are you, or am I incorrect there?
No, that is correct. I basically do social media for the state of Georgia and for nationals now. Is my job that I kind of do them part time.
Okay, and I know that you have run for office yourself, and you have helped a lot of other people run for office. So you are of course, very familiar with the topic of the evening, which is ballot access. And, ballot access reform is an important topic for a lot of reasons. But, let's assume that you're not a libertarian, but you have some other, non-mainstream political belief. Kind of give us an overview of why everyone should care about ballot access.
Well, I mean, for one thing, it is the debate that you need. When there's only two people running, the debate can be very limited. I've seen it one time when we had a lieutenant governor's race, and our candidate was in there. So what you normally see is these guys start attacking each other. But as soon as our candidate started speaking up, talking issues, those two people had solved issues. So when you have that third person in the debates who wants to talk about issues, it makes the debate more interesting. It brings up perspectives that other people are not used to. And one of the things I always try to tell folks, could you imagine going to the cereal aisle and there only being Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Puffs? The fact is you need more options. You deserve more options. And when we're there, it makes the debate get better. It's, at the end of the day, it's free market of ideas, and they have limited that. So we need more, not just the Libertarian Party. We need the Constitution Party, the Reform Party, the Green Party. We need all those voices in there. And when we have that, we have better debate.
Right. And I absolutely agree, because it's, when you look at mainstream Republican politics and mainstream Democrat politics, they're arguing a lot about a small amount of issues. And there are a lot of other issues that are never even discussed, because it's just, so far outside of the box that the Republicans and the Democrats the sandbox that they play in. And I know, because I have helped both libertarian candidates as well as candidates that were running on the Republican ticket. And I've seen the marked difference. When you have a candidate that wants to run on the Republican ticket, it is as simple as you take your cashier's check, depending on what office you're going to run for, either down to your local elections office, or if it's a statewide office, you take your cashier's check down to the Capitol building in Atlanta, and you're on the ballot. It's as simple as that. But, what would an independent or libertarian candidate have to go through once they make that decision that they want to run for elected office to be able to get on the ballot?
I don't know if you guys realize, in 2002, I actually did that. I went door to door. The district I ran in ran from Hampton up to the farmers market. It took us about 4 months of going door to door, begging for people to give us the chance to run. We still had to pay the exact same fee as the Republicans and Democrats, but it took us about 4 months of getting the signatures to get on the ballot. And one thing people don't realize is, while we're doing that, they're going to the debates. They're going to the pancake breakfasts. They're going to the NCAA meetings. They're going to the VFW, while we're going door to door saying, please, sir, can I have permission to run? And it was a very difficult. I mean, we enjoyed it. We had a great time. We've got to meet a lot of folks. But it was, it put us behind. Where they're out meeting, the newspaper writers, we're out, meeting, folks door to door, hoping not to get bit by a dog in the middle of the night.
Right. And, those are some high numbers of signatures in a lot of areas. Correct.
Well, we realize we haven't had a state house rep in Georgia for a third party since 2004. It was Ken Plumlee. I did it in 2002. That was the last time the Libertarians had a person run for state house. It was 2004. We're talking 14 years now.
How do you feel about, I think it was last year and the year before, there was a federal ruling where the courts actually sided against the state of Georgia and some of their ballot access laws. How do you feel about the state spending money challenging that decision over and over in court to keep other parties off the ballot?
Well, basically, it's a protection device for the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, basically, they divided Georgia up, and it's very easy. A lot of times you run unopposed. They spend very little money when they're unopposed. It is a job protection. And, I don't think they should have. Obviously, I think we should have better ballot access, but I think it was a waste of money. And they lost. And I think now with the heavy reduction in petition requirement for president, and I believe at this point we're fixing a challenge for U.S. House races. Most people don't realize it was 1943 was the last time a third party ran for U.S. House in Georgia. The next worst state is Kentucky, 1992. Almost 50 years between Georgia and the next worst state. And that's really unbelievable. I mean, we're one candidate from being Cuba or South Korea. That's kind of unbelievable when you look at it in that way, that we only have one more candidate from these third world countries.
Right, and it actually, if I'm not mistaken, it is actually easier to run for, because one of the questions that I know that I've seen a lot, I'll phrase it this way. One of the questions I know I've seen a lot is a lot of people, they always say, why do libertarians always start at the top? Why don't they, start at the bottom with the local, with the local houses and the local school boards and things like that? But it is actually easier to run for a federal office than it is to run as a libertarian for state house, isn't it?
As I always tell people, I can run for governor, I can run for president, but I can't run for dog catcher, and I can't run for school board in Georgia. And that is really unbelievable. So what it is in Georgia is one of the few places there's actually a three-tier system for ballot access. So you have the Republicans and Democrats who earn ballot access by getting over 20% in the governor's race or presidential race. And then you got the next tier where the Libertarians fall. We get access to statewide races by getting, I believe it's 2% of the registered voters. And that's where we're at. And then you've got like the Green parties who have to petition for absolutely everything. So if we get 20% in the governor's race or the presidential race, we get full-blown ballot access, which is nearly impossible. And that's one of the reasons why that number got reduced for petitioning for presidential candidates.
Are there states that have ballot access? We're rated pretty high up there as the worst, but is there a state that has loosened their ballot access laws that you'd like to see Georgia at least? Because we're not going to get everything we want right off the top. So if you incrementally had to go there, what state would you like to mimic?
Florida would be one. They're relatively easy. Around here, the North Carolina is relatively easy. Oklahoma is not. Kentucky's not. Illinois is not. New York is not. There are a few states in the South that could, we could be equal to Tennessee, Florida. I would love to see us be close to that. I've seen the Libertarians in Florida run 100 candidates in a session. And when you see that, the debate and what you see happening and the promises that the Republicans and Democrats make start changing. So I would like to see us closer to that, and understand that, if they made it just a little bit easier on us, if we just had to pay a little bit more fee or just get 200 signatures. There are states out there that require you to go out and get just 200 signatures or 100 signatures, not a percentage of the total, voting population. That would be a nice change. That would be a progress. Or if we get 20% in any race, like in Alabama, if they get 20% in any statewide race, they get ballot access. We've done that quite a few times. And most people don't realize in the state of Georgia, we have more libertarians to get 1 million votes than any other state in the nation, and we still don't have ballot access. We were the first state to have 1 million vote candidate ever, a gentleman by the name of John Mons. And we've done it now, I believe, 4 times where we've actually had candidates get 1 million votes, and we still don't have the ballot access.
One of my solutions is that, I have always thought that, one of the things that should happen, and this is kind of off on a tangent, but I've always thought that, I'm not a party fan at all, but if we must have parties, then what I would like to see is everything below state house is nonpartisan. Because, one of the things that I know of is I know of quite a few libertarians, people that I've made friends with within the Libertarian Party and within the Liberty Movement that hold office now on city councils in and they managed to pull that off because those were nonpartisan races. So they didn't have to declare a party. They didn't have to go through all that. They ran on their merits and they won the race.
No, it is amazing. You've seen a few hardcore libertarians that have gotten elected over the years. David Chastain's a great example in Cobb County, who was one of the old time libertarians who was an active member for 20 years, and he had to switch parties to get elected. And people have been delighted at the work he's doing on the school board. I mean, in fact, if it had been nonpartisan, it would have been great. He would have been elected. He could have still been his card-carrying libertarian. And you would see a lot more David Chastains on the school board, watching the budget, doing a better job with the school boards than what we're currently seeing in many of these counties. Well, and I do believe most of us want to answer to the voter. I mean, that's a lot of times what you see is you don't see these elected officials answering to the voters. And for libertarians, because we want to see such smaller government, but we also want people to be able to see exactly what's going on. We want to be honest up front and let folks know. And usually it becomes kind of natural to us because of us wanting such small government. But I think it goes farther than that. I think we want to be honest with our dealings, and we're not looking for handouts. We're looking to provide some basic services, and that's it.
Right, absolutely, and I think that ballot access is a long time coming. I know that one of our favorite House reps, John Peasold, who's recently retired, I know that he dropped a couple of ballot access bills.
John's had some very nice ones, and he had some unique features in his bills, which I believe is once you ran, if you got a certain percentage in that district, you maintain ballot access for that district, which was a very interesting way to go about it. So, if in his area, say I believe it's Columbus, if somebody ran and got 20%, the next time they did not have to petition again, or anybody who was running in that race going forward, as long as they got 20% or some number, which showed they had support in that county or that district. So I really, really did like that part of his ballot access bill.
You know what's funny is that before David Ralston was the speaker, he was actually the author of some ballot access legislation.
Yeah, we've had some opportunities over the years, and it's sometimes they get bottled up in committee. Sometimes the lieutenant governor makes sure that they don't pass, but it's amazing. A lot of times you'll hear these guys talk about ballot access until it really gets down to it, and a lot of times they're looking for that extra support. It's I would love to see some. John Pizzol was one of the few guys I thought was honest with me in his dealings, where he truly wanted to see ballot access get better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's definitely one of the kind, and he will be missed in the legislature. But that's one of the things that I've noticed about the legislature and about government in general is that the good guys can't take it for very long.
Well, no, and the other thing is John is obviously a capitalist in his own right, and the fact is he needs to get back to running his business to take care of his family, his employees, his community. At the end, sometimes they see that they're not getting the stuff done they want to get done. And, we see it right now with the Republicans. Some of the things we'd love to see is some better school choice, constitutional carry, lower taxes, and all those things we're not seeing, even when the Georgia Republicans control the governor, the lieutenant governor, the state house, the state senate, and we're still not getting these type of things out of the state house.
Right, and they all campaign on those issues.
Yep.
And that's the thing is that, every one of them is a carbon copy. I support constitutional carry. I support school choice. I support lower taxes. And then, they get into the office and, once they're in office, they're passing the largest tax increase in Georgia history. We're going and going and going with still no constitutional carry. And, it's school choice is still a nightmare. So it's, I will say that Georgia does have good homeschool law as compared because it's not great, but there's worse.
No, absolutely. I think places. Georgia, I believe the statistic I saw that Georgia was the number 2 homeschooling state in the nation. And believe it or not, the number 1 homeschooling state is California.
Really?
Yeah, but if I had to guess, part of it's raw numbers, but part of it is, people have to escape the school system there. It's just so, just so bad. that you have such a large number of people trying not to be educated by the government there. But I was actually amazed myself that California was in one. I would have thought it would have been a Texas, or some state like that, or some deep South state. But it was I was amazed at the fact it was California.
Yeah, well, that definitely, I can understand that because I know that I'm a part of several homeschool Facebook groups, and they talk. Some of the parents they'll post these questions, and I'm just completely unfamiliar with how to help them because they'll be from other states, and they're concerned with what they have to send back into the state, and what the state needs, and blah blah. And in Georgia, it's a one-page form. I am pulling my child out of the public school system, and I'm going to homeschool them.
No, I'll tell you that actually the people who homeschool are some of the unsung heroes, because the fact is that they put no burden on the taxpayer to educate their child. The fact is they've manned up and done it themselves. That was something we wish here at our house we would have done. We ended up going the private school option. But the folks who are capable of doing that, they, like I said, they are my heroes. I really wish that was something that we could have done here at our house. And like I said, we went the route of private school. And one thing I love to tell folks, my kids have never been in a government building without me, and my oldest is 14.
Love it.
That certainly is something to be proud of. The thing about the other thing about the homeschool route is that the kids just seem to really thrive in that environment. You see so many of them going to college early, and one of the things about this state is I know that it's actually more difficult to in this state to get certain post-secondary education grants. That's more difficult to get them as a homeschooler than it is if you went to public school. Your scores have to be higher to I know Hope is one example. There was a big fight about that, and I know that we all have our opinions on Hope, but the thing about it is if they're going to do it, then it should be fair to everybody, and you have to have higher test scores if you are a homeschooler than if you attend public or private school to be able to get a Hope grant. And
well, the other thing I always find fun is when they talk about the homeschoolers not reaching out and getting a variety of people, and where the actual studies are showing just the opposite. And most people don't realize it when you think about it. If you're in a public school, you're going to school with kids that are probably look just like you, same color, same religion, same economic class, very little variety. And one of the things they see with homeschoolers is that they actually get to see more people, different people, than government schooled kids. And I always thought that was interesting because I was under that same impression. And the studies are showing just the opposite, that the government schools are the ones who are actually getting the lack of variety.
Right. And that's the thing is, when you think about life as a whole, outside of the experience in a public school, what experiences exist where where all of your peers are the same age as you, basically in most cases because of the way schools are zoned, the same economic class as you, and have the same education level as you do.
Yep.
It's not real life. Real life, you've got people, you're dealing with people that are smarter than you, less educated than you. You're dealing with people that have more money than you, have less money than you, older than you, different life experiences. But, we put these children in school and we lock them in a room with, other children that are the same age as them, and that's what you end up with.
No, it's, one of the things I love to tell folks, because they'll give me a hard time about sending my kids to a private school instead of government school. I was like, I want to point out that I went to the worst school system in America, Clayton County school system, one of the only counties to lose accreditation for absolutely every school in the district. And I was like, you cannot, you can't tell me that there's not better options out there than Clayton County. So I was like, you can't sell me on the advantage of government school. And when I went to the worst school system, and literally in America, I was like, guys, there's got to be. And the funny thing was, we were doing a debate a few years ago, and one of the Democrats was talking about how it shouldn't be easier to let kids homeschool in private school. And somebody smarter than me asked her the question, where did you go to school? And she's like, that doesn't matter. And they're like, well, where did you go? She's like, well, I went to Woodward. And it's like, okay, so you want to make sure these other kids don't get this opportunity. You're fine with them going to North Clayton or Riverdale, but you're not okay with them having, charter school or private school options or homeschool options. Well, we need to support the government schools. And I'm like, see, this is here. The people who are most likely to homeschool in private school are school teachers and politicians.
And that's that's kind of the. I've always kind of had that thought that it's. I don't like generally the idea of telling people what to do, but I've always thought that if you're an elected government official, your children should have to attend public school. I've always thought that would be just a really nice way of going about things. Because you got these people that are controlling the public school system, yet their children aren't being exposed to it.
It's they don't have as much into it, but it's I always thought it would be kind of neat for me to run for school board here in Griffin area and push the homeschool and private school agenda. We've been pretty blessed here on the south side where we're at, that we've had a lot of access to decent schools. I think Truett Cathy's got one down here that is fairly inexpensive. I think it's called Strong Rock, and then we've got our fair share of inexpensive ones, which is kind of nice. One of the things that I think they should make is if you're homeschooling, you should have access to the facilities of the government school. And I know there would be some kinks you'd have to work out, but you should be able to allow to join the band, to join the baseball team,
right,
to be on the debate club, to make it easier. I mean, those resources are being taken from you anyway, so why not let you enjoy them? And then if you want to
absolutely. You're paying for them.
Right. So let these folks use them. If they want to go home and have a different curriculum than everybody else, that's up to that family. Let that family do it. But but let them use the other facilities that are already there and already being paid for.
Right. Absolutely. And I do hate that Matt couldn't join us tonight, but he was caught up in traffic because he's got a he was doing a meeting. He's
kidding.
Yeah, but he had a because he has a lot of experience with homeschooling, much more than I do. So I know that
it's always funny how you get to know people. I actually got to know Matt because of gun trading on Facebook. It's how I actually met him first. So it was then politics came after that. So it's kind of neat how you meet folks over time.
Yeah, they're all and I know that's not a government thing, that's a Facebook thing, but they have really destroyed that, haven't they?
They have.
I know that I didn't really, I was in a lot of those same groups, and I was afraid of what was going to happen to me because I had a friend of mine that he started several very large groups that grew very large gun trading groups, and he had a bit of success in his life. He built a thing and he made a little video about it in his wood shop, and he posted it for sale online, and he went to bed and he woke up the next morning and he had like 700 orders. So it was just an overnight business.
He's the fellow his house burned down a couple weeks ago, correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
So but he transferred ownership of all 7 of those gun groups over to me, and it was when they all started dying, I thought Facebook's going to kill me.
Yep.
But hey, we certainly do appreciate you coming on to discuss ballot access with us tonight, and I think that we had a really great conversation about that and about homeschooling, and we definitely do appreciate you stopping by. So and that was Doug Craig. We certainly do appreciate Doug for stopping in on such late notice and helping us out this week with ballot access talk and discussion about homeschooling. Matt, you've got a disclaimer for us, and we're going to get on into the loser of the week, right?
The views expressed on this show are ours and not necessarily those of All One Georgia.
Did you vote, Matt?
No, I did not vote in this week's poll.
In any event, the loser of the week. And Jessica won. The loser of the week this week is the National Rifle Association. So this has turned into liberal talk radio. This week we will throw our Hero of the Week award out to Planned Parenthood for their support of Georgia's next governor, Stacey Abrams.
Wow.
I'm kidding. But in any event, the NRA did end up
well
winning
deserved,
for
I
their
might point out.
ridiculous move. Yeah, their ridiculous move of backing Casey Cagle. It's just
the dog.
Who? Oh, I mean, I was fixing to say, look, I mean, I'm kind of tired. I could go for a nap here. We'll let Jessica manage her animals.
I need a moment. Lay
Get
down.
back into the show here.
Why don't you go in your kennel? Go on, kennel.
Jessica's flexing her authority over dogs. She's
Pointing
snapping
and they're
there.
apparently complying.
Yeah. Somewhat complying.
Here he is. Stella's using a pistol. Go on. Alright.
Okay, so in any event, getting back to the loser of the week. The loser of the week this week is the National Rifle Association, the NRA, for their ridiculous backing of gubernatorial candidate Casey Cagle, who is about as anti-gun as gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams.
Wasn't he the loser 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
Hey, Casey Cagle? Yes, Velcro Boy was the loser of the week 2 weeks ago. He absolutely was. But the good thing about Casey Cagle is if Casey Cagle does win, then he's going to be just a boon for the South Georgia economy. Because there's going to be Velcro factories all over South Georgia. Velcro factories are going to pop up like prisons. As much as Georgia loves the prison partnerships and the private prisons, with Cagle at the helm, we might have inmates working in Velcro factories in Georgia.
Here's my first business card I ever had for my blog. It didn't have any information on it. It just has my blog, and then it has...
No sheep.
Don't be a sheep. Don't be a follower.
I thought that was a goat. I was like, wait a minute. You've had some changes, because last week on the show you were very pro goat, but apparently at some point in your life you're anti goat.
No, I am not anti goat.
Goats are good. You ever eaten goat?
Yeah.
Goats are good.
Yeah.
I've eaten mountain
Not
goat,
like
you know,
goat, like
not like goat,
They're
you know.
good. It's very lean meat, so like if you're barbecuing them, you gotta baste them the whole time. But yeah, fantastic. Good to Jessica snarling.
Sounds disgusting.
Why is it disgusting?
I tell you, one of the best things that I ever had was you take an alligator and you put it on a smoker, and what you got to do is you put the whole alligator. You know what you're going to do? You leave the head in there for decorative purposes, but you're going to butterfly the back, and that way you can get the meat smoked more evenly. But what you do is you put a whole chicken inside the alligator's mouth. You stuff the beer can up in the chicken's ass, and you put the whole beer can chicken in the alligator's mouth. As food displays go, that's got to be like at least a 9.5 out of 10. And I'm not very easygoing when it comes to my my rankings of things overnight.
Are you just not adventurous with your food? Jessica?
No, I don't usually make beer stuffed chicken stuffed alligator.
I mean, like,
No.
do you ever venture outside of like beef, pork, chicken?
Do I eat? Well, I don't eat pork.
Why not? That explains why she has no desire to pig hunt. But that also means you don't eat bacon.
You don't eat bacon?
Read a few too many articles about it.
You need to read some of my
keto articles about it. If I had a farm where I had my own, I would eat pork. It's not. It's just.
Oh, you don't want to eat Chinese pork.
Look, yeah. Look, I will tell you. I will tell you this, and this comes from a lot of experienced pig hunting. Pigs are extremely nasty, and they stink. I'm really surprised that you haven't started. You haven't built a little chicken.
The only reason I haven't is because I don't have anyone to care for them when I'm not here.
Yeah,
and I would be upset if they died.
Right.
That's a fair point. Yeah. One of the traumatic memories from my childhood was when I was about 5 years old. My great grandmother. We used to go visit my great grandmother a lot, and she had yard chickens, which was amazing because she actually lived in Fulton County. But she had yard chickens, and I remember my cousin Stephanie and I. Stephanie's about a year older than me. We were like 5 and 6 years old, sitting on my great grandmother's front porch. And my great-grandmother walks out, and she's like, she walks out in the yard, and chickens are pecking, and we're throwing chicken feed to the chickens, and they're pecking and eating out of our hands. Well, she goes over to the biggest one, and she picks it up by the neck and swings it around over the top of her head. And it wasn't quite I come to find out later on, she did that intentionally because we were there. She used to cut the head off of them, is what she usually did. But I don't know if you ever seen a chicken with its head cut off and it running around with no head, but that's even more traumatic than the neck breaking is. So she just, breaks the chicken's neck and then walks right in between us, back up the steps into the house. And goes into her sink and starts frying and starts defeathering and cleaning this chicken. And we had some amazing fried chicken that night, but still it was quite a sight for a 5-year-old. It's probably one of the very few things that I remember from being 5 years old.
I remember all kinds of things from even like my parents. Man, we'll be talking. And they're like, "You were 2 when that happened." So,
look, here's my thing though. I've done things to my brain that you haven't. Yeah, it's so it's like I don't remember most of high school. They tell me I went to college, but honestly, I don't know. It's like the 90s, man. I don't remember the 90s.
All right, so who's your nomination for Loser of the Week?
I will nominate... No, don't do that.
All right. I'm going to nominate Chris Carr. Because of this damn ORR thing that I've had going on with the city of Dallas, I filed a complaint with his office 11 days ago. And I've sent him additional complaints every morning. And I haven't had not even a thanks for your email, Mr. Lowe, reply.
Not even stop contact.
Right, yeah, not even just leave me alone. Just go away, we're not going to do anything. So I'm gonna nominate Chris Carr.
For negligence?
Dereliction of duty, what? And he wants to be freaking Attorney General again. You know what? I'm gonna start lobbying the representatives next year to put some damn teeth in the open records law. I mean, if I have to pay a fine or face jail time for their stupid random city ordinances, then they can pay me a fine when they don't comply.
I agree.
Pay you a fine.
If they don't comply, because it does no good. I mean, what do they pay it themselves? No. They can pay me for my time for having to chase it down and force them to do the right thing. I wonder if there's precedent for that. I bet there's precedent for that somewhere.
I would like to nominate Governor Nathan Deal for, in the middle of a local district attorney's race, just, deciding, we don't need this race. I'm just going to decide who the DA is. So, I'm nominating Governor Nathan Deal.
Hunter Hill for his anti-gun positions this week. His back and forth.
Oh, Hunter Hill. All right, so that is Jessica's pick, which is Hunter Hill for his anti-gun statements and stances this week. And being a flip-flopper, I nominated Governor Nathan Deal for his interference in Douglas County's district attorney's race. And Matt brings it in with Chris Carr, who is not there by default this week. He's actually there
Dereliction
for a reason,
of duty.
which is, yes, that's quite the charge.
The same
Dereliction
thing as
of
Bradley
duty.
Manning.
They kind of look alike, too.
Better now.
Well, when Bradley's wearing the dress, anyway.
All right, does anybody have any closing thoughts?
I pretty
this
much
week?
think we just did.
I'm hesitant to ask. Yeah, I don't think that, I don't think we can go out on top of that. So we'll just all say our goodbyes, and we'll see you next week. Be sure that you give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Even if you don't like the show, still give us 5 stars. We'll send us a PM. We'll send you
Corrections, go to Jessica at all.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any corrections, complaints, grievances, send them to Jessica at allongeorgia.com.
Bye.
So that's our show.
Later.
We'll see you next week.